Hey, so I just came up with a new layout here for my pads for finger drumming. So let me just play you something real quick and you see if there's anything weird. See if you can notice anything different than usual. There's no kick, right? So usually finger drummers only have access to their pads until they assign one or two of those to the kick drum, but it always felt very unnatural to me as someone who did play drums a little bit in the past to trigger the kick using your fingers. Because real drummers use their feet, right? Or their foot. Well, depending on what genre they play, right? If you have a double bass pedal thing going on, you use both your feet. If you play with a more classic kind of setup, you only use one foot, but you certainly don't use your hands. And so that's why no matter how much I fine-tuned my finger drumming setup here, it never felt the way I really wanted to. But then it just hit me. You know those super easy, simple, basic, cheap sustain pedals you can use with any keyboard. So say you have a piano sound. If you press the pedal, you can let go of your hands. Those notes will keep playing. And then as soon as you release your foot from the pedal, they will stop. The sound will stop. It's a very basic little pedal, very cheap as well. But the cool thing is the iRig pads here has an extra input for precisely that type of pedal. So I could connect the pedal to this and I could configure it, and because that's one of the cool things about the iRig pads, you can actually change the assignments you have here. You can customize this to your needs. So I could change that sustain on-off type of MIDI message and replace it with the kick drum MIDI note, so that I could actually use my foot to trigger kick drum samples and sounds in GarageBand, and use my fingers for the pads, i.e. the remaining drum shells and cymbals, etc., which certainly would feel much more natural. Now the downside to that would be that it's an on-off pedal, so there's no velocity, i.e. you cannot play softer or stronger. It's always going to be at the same level of intensity, but I think that's actually a good thing for the kick drum specifically. Now for most of the drum shells that would be very detrimental because you want to be able to do those fills, right, those swells. Right, you want those dynamics, those softer and harder notes. But with your kick, that's responsible for the bass. And in most modern music, you want your bass to be very, very consistent. You're not going to do something like what I just did on the pads here with your kick drum, right? For the most part, in most genres, I would guess. So it might actually be helpful because sometimes, more maybe inexperienced drummers, they will be so focused on trying to get their fills and grooves right that they forget about the kick drum. And so sometimes it's a little softer, sometimes it's a little harder, it's not consistent, and it gets lost in the mix. Whereas maybe having a pedal like that will naturally solve the problem, for me at least, because no matter how hard I press that pedal, it's always going to give me a nice and consistent kick drum sound. So I think it might actually be helpful. I've also changed the layout of my pads for my regular key sounds, so now I get access to 2+ octaves, which is going to make soloing so much more interesting. And I've also got a new layout for DJing here, which I've been practicing with over the past few weeks. So there's going to be some DJing live streams as well. So many more interesting things to come. I'm very excited. Thanks again for being a member. Hope to see you on the next live stream or members only video. Take care.